Monday, August 21st, and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, on June 16th, 2021, Governor Baker signed a law into an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This act includes an extension until March 31st, 2023 of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12th, 2020 executive order. The August 1st, 2022 select board meeting will be conducted by a remote participation by the board. And I'm going to go ahead and grant Westwood Media Center permission to record the meeting and ask if there's anyone else who wishes to record the meeting. All right, hearing none, I'm going to jump into the chair's update. And Chris, I'm going to start with you to introduce our new Assistant Town Administrator and Director of Human Resources.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Select Board, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Molly Keane, who is our new Assistant Town Administrator, Director of Human Resources. She comes from the town of Norwood. She's previously worked in Norwood. She worked with the town of Weston. She started with us on July 13th. She's hit the ground running. So we're expecting even more things from her and better things from her as we move forward. But she's already produced some really productive matters in a very short time frame. She is introducing herself to the community as well as our team members, and she's certainly blended well with our team.
Welcome,
Molly. Sorry, Rob.
That's all right. All right, Molly, you want to say anything?
No, I just want to, thank the board for giving me the opportunity, and I'm delighted to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Good luck, Molly.
All right, moving on. Next item on the chair's update is Purple Heart Day, which is celebrated each year on August 7th. And last year, we were designated as a Purple Heart town. You've seen the signs at the edges of town. And we will join other Purple Heart communities displaying the Purple Heart flag in recognition and honor of our Purple Heart recipients. And the Purple Heart flag will be displayed directly under the American flag here at Town Hall. Next up is a reminder about Westwood Day. Westwood Day this year will be Saturday, September 17th, rain or shine. And there are a number of activities from a 5K run that kicks off at 9 a.m. Then there's followed by a 10 o'clock fun run. And then from 10 to 3, we will have the vendor village and food court open. And as a reminder, this is our 125th anniversary for the town. So we hope to see everybody there, and we hope to have great weather. Finally, in the chair's update, just a note on the remote meetings that I mentioned at the start. On July 16th this year, Governor Baker signed into law an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, which, among other things, extends the expiration of the provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2023. Specifically, though, this extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically presented at the meeting location. The act does not make any new changes to the open meeting law other than extending the expiration date of the temporary provisions regarding remote meetings from what was originally going to expire on July 15th, 2022, extending that to March 31st, 2023. Last thing, just as a chair's update, given Westwood, Dedham Westwood Water District's watering restrictions and the extremely dry temperatures, I'd just like to remind people to be really careful. We've had a couple of brush fires, one over in the Stone Meadow area, one on the other side of town as well, in one of the wooded areas. And so we certainly don't want any part of Westwood looking like some of the other areas in the country. So especially anybody extinguishing a cigarette, please make sure you take care of that and keep us all safe. Okay, next up, I believe we have Jared Orsini, our Public Health Director, here to talk about a Public Health Coalition agreement with Norfolk County.
All right, thank you very much. Nice to be with you all again. So we had a Board of Health meeting last Tuesday. The Board of Health voted to approve the intermunicipal agreement with the NC8 Coalition, which is what started as our emergency preparedness group and has slowly evolved into a little bit more of a shared services, shared resources, shared intellectual, capital sort of group with our neighboring communities. It's Westwood, Canton, Dedham, Milton, Needham, Norwood, Walpole, and Wellesley. And through some hard work, we were able to earn 2 grant awards, which are now going to fund some epidemiology services and some social work / mental health services that each individual community within our group would struggle budgetarily to provide. So the Commonwealth provided some funds for us to utilize to be able to provide more to our residents as a group as we could individually. So this IMA sort of codifies our informal agreement into a formal agreement. And I don't know if there's any questions. We do have epidemiology and social work / mental health services on board with the coalition already. So they have already begun work highlighting what we hope will be a community health survey, which is sort of a cornerstone of what public health seeks to have, done, at an interval. Typically, Healthy People 2020 is probably what is most commonly known. There's a 10-year sort of federal thing. We'd like to do something similar where we can keep sort of track longitudinally of what our residents are facing in terms of their health, and provide resources and better direct our funds. So those epidemiology folks will be working on those types of surveys, which will be used in each community individually to create some data that we can utilize. And then obviously coming out of COVID, a large demand for mental health / social services. So this is a great opportunity. We're grateful to the Commonwealth for the funds, and we're hoping that they will be extended long past the 3 years of the original grant.
Excellent. Any questions from my colleagues?
I just wanted to ask Jared, first of all, thank you for all of your work on this. It's very exciting. I'm just wondering what we might be able to expect by way of updates from what is coming out of the group.
Well, there's once the agreement is codified, there will be monthly meetings with all of the assigned, sort of liaisons for each community. So we will continue to meet monthly. We usually would update the board as sort of, large scale projects or large scale, decisions are made, so the intervals would probably be really based on what we're able to accomplish in terms of bringing things home to Westwood. So I would imagine we would appear on that topic, occasionally. I think once we get going formally, I think we'll be able to have a better plan in place for, formal updates.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Michael, any questions?
No, nothing. We have several of these with all different departments throughout the area, so it's a great thing, Jared. Thank you. So I move that the select board, as recommended by the Westwood Board of Health, authorize the select board chair or the town administrator to sign the Norfolk County 8 Local Public Health Coalition intermunicipal agreement on behalf of the town of Westwood.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Jared.
I'll see you soon.
Okay. All right. Next up, I believe we have an update from the library team. I believe Maureen is here to join us. And Chris, anything you want to introduce first?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I know Maureen's here, and I know our director, Lizzie McGovern's also here with us. So
Okay.
I would actually ask the board to turn it over to Lizzie to do a little intro and then provide the board with the update.
That sounds good. I hadn't seen Lizzie arrive yet. So, all right, Lizzie, take it away.
All right. Now I'm long-winded, so I'm gonna try to, I get excited, so I'm gonna try to keep this short and sweet and hit all the highlights, because this is something fun for the update. I know you guys have a long meeting ahead, but if I'm gonna just share a couple of slides, just so we have visual. So the library has been working all year on updating our strategy plan. And I sent the full packet for you to peruse, in your free time. But I wanted to highlight just a few slides, as I said. So we've updated our mission and vision, and we've worked since November. We had a consultant work with us, and I'm excited about this plan because it's not something we've ever done before. Usually there's kind of a very customized way of cookie cutter way of doing strategy plans, and you put them on the shelf and then you don't look at them until it's been 5 years and you're like, oh, did we do any of these things? And as my first year as director, I wanted it to be something that was what we call a living plan, something flexible, and we could breathe life into it. And as things change over the years, you can kind of, fit things in as, if COVID taught us anything, people who did strategy in 2020 must have just been kicking themselves. So we wanted something that can build into where the future goes. So we have a new mission. So that's why we exist. It doesn't usually change much. We just kind of updated a few lines there, but we want to provide easy to access resources, services, experiences that invite people of all ages, cultures, and interests to connect, explore, relax, problem solve, and thrive. And so the vision is where we want to be in the next 3 years. And so by the 3 years, we want to be a destination for inspiration, ideas, information. And this was I want us to be the dynamic, responsive beating heart of the community life here in Westwood. Lofty goals. So we've boiled it down to 6 initiatives here. I'm just going to take you through a couple of the breakdowns examples because this came from research that we did. We did focus groups. We did a huge community survey. We had great response from, families, senior citizens, people of all ages. And so a lot of this came from the mouths of the community. So we took it, we ran with it, and we have these breakdowns here. So these slides are easier. So the first one is start here. We want to draw people back in. We've had, the library is well utilized in town. We have the new branch opened in February, but with COVID, people have kind of maybe realized that, we're not, that we are still here basically. So we want them to come back and we want to bring new users in. So with some of that is re-envisioning our customer service, demonstrating the relevance that we do have. People are paying all these streaming services, but we have, the library pays for Hoopla and Overdrive, and we have our Canopy, which has movies. So just educating the community on what we do have, promoting the Islington branch as a creativity center, more programming over there. And just getting people back in. Think Blue is one of my favorite ones we've created. Was this again came out of a lot of the research, but blue zones are geographic areas where residents live to over 100 years old, and there's studies of whether is it food, is it what is it about the life that makes everybody live such happy long lives and healthy lives. So our challenge is we want Westwood to be a blue zone. So we want to invite provoking authors and speakers and promote wellness and health, and whether that's in creating spaces in the physical library for gathering. What came out of one of our surveys a lot was people want outdoor spaces to gather. So I did do a nice little walk with Chief Deckers around the outside of the library of where I could create a patio, because people want outdoor spaces to gather. They want more spaces in the library to sit together. So, it's things like that. It's having concert series and, places that we can come together for not just entertainment, but really bring the community together. So that's Think Blue. Better Together. This is connecting people and in the community, easing divides by being deliberate about inclusivity and creating safe and inviting spaces. And so that's, being thoughtful about presenters. It's really tapping into the talent and diversity of our residents that we have here. Doing the Human Library program where you check out a person as a book and hear their story, and bringing more civic and cultural programs, creating a world language collection, things like that. Anytime, anywhere is just connecting us to keeping us in the forefront of whether it's a digital, access to the library through your phone, or having a bookmobile and having the library come out to community events and going to different, residential areas and senior citizen areas that we can, go to you. So that's anytime, anywhere. And what's next? That's just all of our we have very talented staff here who have creative ideas all the time about how we can do this program, or how do we, do this collection. And so this initiative is really harnessing the talent that we have, whether it's looking into expanding our library of things, which we're already doing. We just ordered 2 pickleball sets. So if anybody wants to check one out and go to Downey, you can have the net, everything. So really expanding things like that. And of course, programs and events. And then the last one, excellent, is it's an internal one that connects all of it together, because it's our staff. It's how we invest in our staffing. And, whether that's training, professional development, smoothing out business processes so that our focus is always, the service that we have to the community, and kind of keeping that excitement and talent, fresh. So those are the highlights. And I did want to share one other slide that we met with so many people in town, and everyone was so gracious with their time and their energy. We talked to people who were involved with the comprehensive plan that Westwood did. And this actually worked out great because we have Daniel Sutton now, who's the human services director, but we gathered with all of these different shared departments and created a mission and vision that we were working together, so that when we do these initiatives, it's not in isolation. It's, we can connect with Youth and Family Services to, be a referral network, and we can do this program with Westwood Rec, and Melinda from Westwood Media, we're going to do a media center, how we can do these things together. So it was really a great way that we connected, and really made this not just a nice, as I said, in a vacuum of just the library, but, how it's going to touch every individual of Westwood in different ways. So that's like my really fast spiel of giving you the highlights of it. And I know Maureen wanted to say a few words from the trustees' perspective, because they were so supportive and really involved in the process as well.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. Really, as you can see, it's such an exciting and, as Lizzie said, living plan. Right from the beginning, myself and Trustee Mary Macy Phelps, and Lizzie McGovern, our director, along with Connie Kranos, our consultant, met regularly as part of a steering committee to, sort of plot out our next steps and keep the board aware of what we were doing. Just a couple of quick points. I'd like to say that Ms. Kranos was really wonderful to work with, a great choice as a consultant. Her input was really significant in guiding and refining the research process for a strategy that we chose, and which resulted in an exciting 3-year strategy. I'd like to thank Lizzie McGovern, our director, and her staff for their just diligent work throughout the year. This participation from the staff was not required, it was voluntary, but every staff member joined several pieces of the process and worked together with people that weren't in their department to really make it a vibrant and cohesive strategy going forward. I think it's made them, kind of a more interlocked group to go forward with some of the initiatives that we're talking about. Let me see. So the process was really research-based, fact-based, and they used so many different methods to engage the community that I think people should be aware of. They had over 1,500 people respond to the survey and conducted focus groups, and really that was huge in finding out the needs, not just of people who already use the library, but newcomers to the community, and people in the community who may not be using the library, and to formulate ideas for moving forward. So in short, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I hope that the plan that you received and Lizzie's presentation has given you a good basis for understanding, and we would look forward to your informed support as we go forward and come to you for some of the upcoming initiatives that we'd like to work on in the next 3 years, so that our library system remains the vibrant, welcoming place and a 21st century library responding to the needs of the community.
I'd like to
So-
commend you both. And Lizzie, Maureen, it doesn't surprise me to hear that the staff was as engaged as they are, because Lizzie, the energy with which you delivered that very succinct
I tried to be.
presentation. Yeah, no, it was great. I can see that being infectious and getting other people involved. And I really want to commend you on the community involvement and all of the different touch points that you were gathering information from on what the needs are. And I think it is a really community-centric plan. So nicely done, nicely done.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Anything from either of my colleagues? Okay.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, next up, I believe we have both James Gavin, Town Treasurer, and Kathy Foley, Assistant Town Treasurer, here to talk about the bond sale for the Hanlon Deerfield School. So if you are both here, I don't know who's, Kathy, you taking the lead on this, or is Jim?
I believe Jim is. He should be joining any second. Oh, I see him now.
I'm joining. I'm just trying to get my screen to my my monitor to come up. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Not sure why I can't get my screen, but I'll start anyways. Oh, there I am. So we're here to present tonight the sale of a $60 million bond, which was resized to $56.58 million. Tish is going to help us out with the presentation that's in front of you, and I'll try not to bore you. But yeah, this was a July 14th sale of a $60 million bond for the construction of the Hanlon School and the Deerfield, the Hanlon and Deerfield School. With any of our bonds, we have to go through a credit review and a credit rating, and we're happy to report that our AAA rating was reaffirmed by Standard & Poor's. Standard & Poor's, last met with us back in February of 2022 when we were selling another bond, and they piggybacked on some of the information that they had at that point in time. But again, we have to go through a rigorous process to, review the finances and financial practices that we have, and that was burdensome to Kathy Foley and to Pam Dukeman and the rest of the finance team. But once again, they were able to send over the reams and reams of information that they did, so that the Standard & Poor's could go through and see our financial situation and how we were doing. Chief among some of these is, our reserve balances, OPEB efforts, which have been fantastic over the last years, budget practices, adherence to financial goals and policies, and some of the debt practices we have. We have been for years practicing a layering effect of our debt, so that when we see one piece of debt mature or roll off, that's when we feel there's an opportunity to add some more debt, which is the case in this. So we did receive the AAA again from Standard & Poor's, and they, in their write-up, they talk about the conservative budgetary management practices, strong management. They see the through all the presentations we do, the work that the Finance and Warrant Commission do, all the elected officials, the select board, and the finance team in, delivering a good budget, conservative, flexible. We maintain, good liquidity and good debt practices, and we've been able to adhere to all the financial goals and the plateaus that we've, laid out for them. And, we're rewarded with the AAA, and, there's only about 20% of the communities in the Commonwealth that get that. So this is a nice thing to have. It's a good reflection of our residents, and our elected officials, again, the Finance and Warrant Commission, the finance team, and the select board in coming together and, in trying to maintain good financial, goals and conservative practices. And with the AAA, obviously, the goal here is to get the best and lowest rates available. for our borrowing at the time that we go to market. So we did go on July 14th, and we sold the $60 million bond, and we had 8 competitive bids. The winning bid was Macero Financial. They offered a 3.7% net interest rate. They did offer a pretty sizable premium, which we are required when we receive that premium to use that to offset the size of the bond. So you see that they used the term resized from 60 million to 56.58 million. It's a 30-year bond, and this is an appropriate, length of time for a capital project of this size that has, a life and a duration as long as a building like this should have. The 3.7% isn't at the historic rates that we're used to over previous years, but it is a very good rate. Very happy with where it is. If you were looking to borrow money on your home these days, you're paying over 5%. So 3.7 is a good rate. So the bond is again for the Hanlon Deerfield construction project. That's an $85 million project. We were looking to finance the lion's share of it, the bulk of it, with the 60 million. Back in the spring, we did finance $2 million of that, which was really the feasibility and design part of the project. But this 60 million is the bulk of it. And again, it was resized down to 56.58. What we do have left after this bond is we have $7 million in debt that we still need to issue for the Hanlon Deerfield project. That $7 million represents the tail end of the project, which is going to be after the new building is constructed and tearing down the old building and building fields. Those portions of the project were too far out in the future for us to include in the debt that we're presenting tonight. But the total project, it looks like it's about $88 million. The 60 million that we're issuing here, the 2 million that we've already issued, plus the 7 represents our portion of it, less what we expect to receive from the Mass School Building Assistance Program. The only other debt that is out there really is, a few design projects that you can see on your screen that were approved at town meeting. It amounts to a little over $1 million. So it gives us a pretty clear picture now with this 60 million in place, what our debt looks like in the future, absent any new projects or plans for the town. Again, talking about layering debt, this new debt will start making payments in fiscal 2024. It's part of the plan that we had. It's what we presented to the select board. We presented to the town meeting and to all of the residents of the town that the high school construction project is maturing and ending in fiscal 2023. We'll make our last payment. A shock that 20 years has gone by since we did that. But this new debt will come in right after the high school matures and rolls off, and then we'll be off on this. And in a nutshell, that's where we are. What I would say is 3.7% is a very good rate. The rate increases that have gone on in recent months have been a little bit startling, and all of the rumors and the words you hear from the Federal Reserve is that there are likely future rate increases. So it's good to get this large piece out there. Kathy, unless you have anything to offer, I'd ask if you would please sign and approve the debt so we can move forward with the project.
Let me first thank you, Jim, for the update and all of the guidance on all of this. And turn to my 2 colleagues and ask if either of them have questions before we take action.
I do not, Rob. Thanks.
Nor do
Then I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I move that the select board vote to approval and to sign the bond documents as requested by the town treasurer. The official vote is included in the packet. We've been informed that bond counsel has indicated that there is no requirement, thank you, town council, bond counsel, to read the entire vote. We shall approve the vote to award the bond and establish various terms as set forth in the vote presented to this meeting that has been prepared by bond counsel to the town, which vote shall be inserted into the minutes of this meeting. And we'd also like to thank Treasurer Jim Galvin and the entire financial team for the work that they did to make a successful bond sale. Thank you, Jim. Thank you,
Thank
Kathy,
you.
and the rest of your team.
Thank you for your support.
And I second all of that.
Very good. Okay, roll call vote here. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you. I believe we have to stop by Kathy's office and sign a whole bunch of these things, right?
Yeah, it's a wet signature.
Very good.
Please.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. Next up is an update from our town clerk of the year, Dottie Powers, regarding the upcoming election in September.
Thank you, Chairman Gotti and board, and very excited to be updating you on some new changes with elections. In June 22nd, the legislature passed an election reform bill, and it was signed into law. And what that means for us is early voting will now be permanent, early voting in person and by mail. Right now, the September 6th primary is coming very quickly, and we will be hosting early voting. It's going to be, it depends on the size of how many registered voters you have. So with the amount of registered voters we have, which is over 11,000, we have to provide early voting for our voters during our normal business hours. Now, typically it would be in the office of the town clerk, but because we don't have 100% accessibility here, we met with the Board of Registrars on July 14th, and we determined that the best location would be the police station, the Gillette meeting room, which we've had prior elections. We've had our early voting there. We will be having early voting during the week before, so it will begin on Saturday, August 27th, and it will end on Friday, September 2nd. Saturday will be a full day because it's also the last day for voter registration, and that will be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Would you like me to go through the whole schedule with you?
Sorry, I was on mute.
That's okay. Do you want me to go through the whole schedule, or it will the website will be updated? I should get that updated tomorrow with the schedule on there.
If the full schedule will be on the website, we can direct folks there for
Yes.
the full schedule. But as you said, early voting the week prior, and registration will be on the website starting tomorrow.
And there's actually early voting by mail now, so that is now available for all state primaries, presidential primary, and state elections. It's also available for town elections as well. The only reason it wouldn't be is if a community in the Commonwealth decided to opt out. But moving forward, there'll always be early voting by mail. Right at present, there was always absentee voting, and that was certain requirements that you had to meet. But now it's anybody is eligible to do that. The
And
state
in order to
will,
do that, they just go to the website and download a form to fill out and turn into you.
yes. So actually, on July 15th, the state elections division sent out a vote by mail card to all registered voters. So as I said, probably over 11,000 in Westwood, and we have started receiving them back. We've received quite a few, and we've already mailed out over 600 ballots. For regular elections, when there's not a state election, they won't mail out the cards. So it's just really going to be every 2 years for state and presidential elections. People will get the cards. And for a local election, people will go to our website, they'll download a form, and they can send it in.
Okay.
Okay. So we're working on sending out the ballots right now. And I just want to remind the registered voters that if you haven't mailed those cards back yet, there's a few different options. There's either all elections, check off, but also September 6th is a primary. And for a primary, you have to specify a ballot, either a Republican or a Democratic ballot, if you are an independent voter. Otherwise, if you just send your card back and you don't check anything off, we can't send you a ballot. What we're trying to do is catch up and send people a correspondent so they can let us know. Another thing too is you can't change your party on these cards. If you're, for example, a registered Democrat, you can't check off a Republican ballot because we wouldn't be able to send you that unless you change your party. So
Very good.
be looking for those cards, sending those cards back to us and getting your ballots and getting the ballots back to us by the close of polls on election night, September 6th.
Thank you, Dottie. I know that the next thing that we need to do is to vote and post the state primary warrant.
Yes.
So do you want to take us through this, or I guess the primary election, as Dottie just said, is set for September 6th. And voting will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. for the following purpose. Residents will be able to cast their vote for the state primaries for candidates for political parties for the following offices: Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General, Secretary of State, Treasurer, Auditor, Representative in Congress for the 8th District, Counselor for the 4th District, Senator in General Court, Norfolk and Suffolk Districts, Representative in General Court, the Norfolk District, the 11th Norfolk District, for District Attorney in Norfolk, Sheriff for Norfolk County, and County Commissioner for Norfolk. So I would entertain a motion that would allow us to sign and post that warrant.
I move that the select board to sign the September 6th state primary warrant, and for the warrant to be posted by the constable online and in 5 public places equally distributed among the 5 precincts in Westwood.
I second that.
Okay. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Okay, and in a related matter, I know Lieutenant Vinci is here to talk about assigning staff for the polling locations. So Lieutenant Vinci, you want to take the floor?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. So yes, we'll continue to work closely with Dottie and figure out what we need for staffing at that new polling location at the high school. We probably going to make a few tweaks to it from what we had in April at that election. There were some things that worked and some things that didn't go as planned. So I think we're going to try to do what we can to maybe throw some more people at it to see if they can assist Dottie in any way she needs. But we're willing to work with her. We'll continue to do so, and something that we'll discuss leading up to it. And we'll come up with a number of officers that will be stationed at that precinct all day for the duration of the election and the polls being.
Yeah, that sounds good. Does anybody have a question?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Chris.
I just wanted to remind the board that there's been a change in the general laws, which now requires a select board to assign police officers to the polling location. So this agenda item, we're recommending the select board to provide that authorization to Chief Silva so he can then continue to work, as Lieutenant Vinci just described, with the town clerk to provide sufficient officers at polling locations as needed.
Very good. Thank you.
So I have a question. So we're going to have to do this every year, or is it a one-time thing?
We, in the future, we may do it as a more blanket approach, but right now you're just doing it for this election, Mike.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I move that the select board approve a sufficient number of police officers as determined by the chief of police to be scheduled at the polling place at every election that will take place in 2022. Therein to preserve order and protect the election officials and supervisors from any interference with their duties and aid to enforcing the laws relating to elections as required by Mass General Laws, Chapter 52, Section 54, Section 72, which was changed in the Acts of 2022 under Chapter 92, Section 13. To further move to designate the Chief of Police the authority to assign police officers according to scheduling and availability. The town clerk will advise the Chief of Police on the location and times that officers will be needed.
I second that.
Okay, let's vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Vinci. I know you and Dottie and Chief Silva will have it all worked out come September 6th.
Yes, thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is a discussion that we asked for at our last meeting. We had an update from the Permanent Building and School Building Committee on the Hanlon Deerfield School Building Project. And there was a bit of a deficit need that was conveyed, and we asked Chris and Pam to take a look at a variety of options that we might explore for filling that void. So with that, Chris, I'm going to turn it to you in Pam's absence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so Pam and I did look at different options, and there's really two different buckets. One that would require action by town meeting, and then there's action that would not require, we would not need to go to town meeting, that we could use the opera funds for. And if the board remembers, Pam provided an update and a presentation regarding the opera funds. And for those watching, that's the American Rescue Plan Act funds that the town has been allocated through the federal government. Pam and I had a conversation with Norfolk County representatives who are overseeing the funds that are being distributed through the federal government, through Norfolk County to Westwood. And that's primarily what we call our restricted funds. We had a very productive meeting with them. We then followed up that meeting with a meeting with school project representatives, another very productive meeting, to the point where there is strong indication. We haven't gotten official approval yet, but the conversation was very positive in the direction that we would get approval for funding from that restricted bucket for this project, specifically under the HVAC system. We have some information that we're going to be submitting to Norfolk County that the project team is working on. Once we get that information submitted to Norfolk County, we will have a clear indication, yes or no, of the use of those funds. So at this time, we think we have a strong indication of support. We do not have a full support from Norfolk County as of yet, but I think we would have some support for Norfolk County to use some of the restricted funds for this school project, specifically under the HVAC system. Once we get that information, we certainly hope to have a definitive answer from Norfolk County before your next meeting, which is on August 22nd, excuse me. So we certainly have hopefully have deficient answer from them at that time. We do have an update just to provide the board with a brief update on where we are. At the last meeting, the board did authorize use of $465,000 from ARPA. And during our conversation with Norfolk County, we found out that of that 465,000, 250 of it can be used under the restricted category. And then they're also looking at the remaining 250 because of the projects under the restricted category. There was one specific, two items that they're looking at that they haven't been posed yet with this type of project or inquiry. And that is the School Street Playground, the ADA compliant, and also the townwide accessibility audit. They found that of great interest. They are looking at those a little more carefully to see if that would be something that would be eligible for funding under restricted budget, or restricted funds. So right now, with that 250, let me back up. The board has 2.7 million under restricted. With that $250,000, it will come down to the 2.5. So we certainly feel that we have sufficient funding to meet the request that was made to the board. at your last meeting. And we certainly know that the board is in full support of the school project, and we are working with Norfolk County and the project team to do our best to make a recommendation to the board so you can allocate the ARPA funds for this project.
Well, let me thank you and Pam for, meeting with Norfolk County so quickly and getting things rolling with them. This is actually very, very good news that these projects would be eligible for the restricted funds use, because my recollection is we thought our hands would be far more tied with the use of those funds. So this is very, very good news, and look forward to continuing that conversation at our August 22nd meeting. Any questions from either Michael or Mary Ann on this topic?
No questions.
No.
Very good.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Chris.
Oh, thank you. And thank Pam.
All right. So that concludes old business. New business, we have a transfer of a select board reserve amount to the municipal vehicle capital account. And this is an account that we monitor throughout the year, and the finance director sends a monthly budget to us as the board. And as the changes to the budget occur, we approve necessary funding adjustments by transferring funds from the reserve account by scheduling supplemental budget articles for town meeting approval. Final year-end adjustments are made if necessary from the select board reserve account to close out the fiscal year, and all unused reserve account funds are closed to free cash to be used for the following year's budget. A request has been made for $57,000 to cover the purchase of a new vehicle for a town administrator, as approved at our meeting on June 21st. And this will be the first use of the reserve account for fiscal year 23. And after this transfer, the current balance in the account will be $238,000, which it started at $295 less that 57. So if there are no questions there, I would take a motion.
I move the select board to approve the transfer of $57,000 from the select board reserve account to the municipal vehicle capital account to fund the purchase of a vehicle for the town administrator.
I second that.
Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you. Next up is discussion of fall town meeting or special town meeting. Chris, do you want to take the lead on this one?
Sure. Mr. Chair, just to let you know, there is a question, it's a raised hand. One of the attendees, I don't know if it's for, actually two raised hands. I don't know if it's for a prior matter or for a future matter. I don't know how you'd like to address that. So they type it in. Chase, can they type it into the chat feature?
Yeah, why don't you put them into the chat feature? No, can't do.
No, there's no questions in the chat. They would have to enter their question in the chat with their name and address.
So the individuals raising their hand, you put that into the chat feature. Okay. So
Mr. Ahern, you have something to say?
Yes. I'm sorry?
Yeah, it looks like Mr. Ahern has something to say.
No.
Oh, okay, your hand is raised, so.
I'm dangerous with it.
Okay, so Chris, are you, while we're waiting for those questions to come into the chat, do you want to kick us off with regards to town meetings?
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Chair. So it is August 1st, and just to remind the board that per the charter, by September 15th, the select board would have to make a decision if you would like to have that the fall town meeting, which is typically held in November. If you're not planning on having it, then the board would also need to make a decision or to vote not to have that meeting as well. So I just want to remind the board, this is per charter, it is August. We just want to make sure that the board and the viewing audience is aware, and just asking the board to have a conversation about that. And we can certainly make it you can certainly make your decision at your next meeting. But you also have two meetings before September 15th that are currently scheduled. So you have two different opportunities after this meeting to render a decision or make a decision on how the board would like to proceed.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
You also are not, you are also not necessarily bound by a fall town meeting. You have the ability to schedule a special town meeting at any time you like. The fall town meeting, which is called the second session of the annual town meeting, is described by the charter that must be called by September 15th and must take place at a specific date in November unless it's interrupted by Veterans Day. So you're not necessarily bound by that date if there's something else you want to call a special town meeting at a later date.
Okay, I mean, at this point in time, I don't see anything pressing to require the second annual town meeting or a special town meeting. But we don't have to take any action on that tonight. I don't know if either of my colleagues would like to weigh in with an opinion on that at this moment.
Chris, do
Okay.
we know if there's anything pressing from any of the other departments?
So at this time, there is nothing pressing with any other departments, nor are there any financial pressing matters either with our operating budget or the state budget.
Okay, thank you.
And I just wanted to ask, Mr. Ahern, can you remind me what the notice provision is with respect to a special town meeting?
Not off the top of my head, but I believe it's something like 90 days. There's a specific time period. So there's plenty of time to be able to allow, if you call a special town meeting, to allow the FinCom to do its work. I think it's 90 days, but I don't have the charter open in front of me and I don't want to be misquoted.
Yeah. I'm vaguely remembering something even shorter than that, like 45 or something like that. But, you know, either way.
You have to allow the FinCom to do their work and get the townwide mailing out is
Right.
essentially the guidelines.
Okay.
We haven't called a special town meeting since last year.
Right.
So there are two questions, Rob, both from the same gentleman.
Okay, I see. Let's recognize Mr. Cummings and allow him to speak. John Cummings is the chair of the Permanent Building Committee. And given that this project is about to get underway, I think he's got some exciting news to let the residents know about. So if we could promote him to a panelist and allow him to give a quick update.
There he is.
Good evening, and thank you very much for allowing me to update you, because by your next meeting, the landscape at the Hanlon will have been changed. It's very exciting. The project has actually started, and today we had a dig safe, and the Brad Brothers Construction was out there marking up where things are going to go, and things are going to start happening really fast. On Wednesday, people are going to start seeing the mobile equipment arrive. So they'll start to run where the power lines are going to go. They'll at least have on site a number of different pieces of equipment. Next Monday, the 6th, they're going to start to cut in the fire access trail. So if you go down Laurel Lane at the end, you
Just
have
John,
to go.
quick point of clarification. The 6th or the 8th, Monday's the 8th. They're not starting on Saturday, right?
You're right. I got that. On Monday, the 8th, the fire access trail will be getting cut in. And now when you go down Laurel Lane, the fire access trail will be going straight ahead and then off to the right, where previously you would have had to walk off of the circle to the left. Once that's in place, the Conservation Committee and a couple other people will be walking through, making sure everything's just so. The fence is going to go up. And then on Wednesday next week, the 10th, they will start to remove the trees from the site so that we can get going. Their hope is to start blasting on August 22nd, and that'll go for a couple of weeks, pending how much there is. They're going to begin excavation for that, but scheduled to begin the excavation for foundations on September 19th. They're looking to have steel delivery on the 11th of November 21st, and hopefully they'll have the roofing material delivered the day after Christmas, which is the 26th of December. And that's just exciting. So one of the other things I did want to how we're getting everything communicated to everyone is a new process, so we're just gonna keep telling everybody as much as we can, as often as we can. So thank you for letting us do that here. I do want a small note, the geothermal wells, I think we have 167 wells going in, and that's generally a 6-month progress, but the team was able to work out with the geothermal wells people that they can get 3 machines on, cutting the time down to 2 months. So
Wow.
they're already moving, shaking and moving.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, this is exciting and looking forward to watching the progress.
Thank you for your time. Just so when you get phone calls, you'll know why.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, Chris.
So I did have a conversation with Mr. Cummings, and Mr. Cummings is going to be sharing some information with us as far as a press release that will be shared through our social media pages, sites, as well as our website, and we'll also update the town website. So I want to thank Mr. Cummings for sharing that information so we can try to inform the residents the best we can regarding the project and the progress of this project.
Is there anything special being done for the most immediate neighbors? When you talk about blasting starting in late August, if you aren't following the town's social media accounts and/or website diligently, you may miss that and all of a sudden be rudely awakened with the blasting beginning. So is there anything special being done for the most immediate neighbors? I guess is my question.
We are actually trying to still collect emails. People haven't given them up because they're on vacation or whatever. I have an email chain going to go out tomorrow. I've been texting people that I have their actual mobile numbers of the neighborhood, asking them to inform their neighbors and collect their email information. And if anybody wanted to send me their email information, that's one of the abutters. There's 21 houses. You can send it to john.cummings-pbc at Westwood or Town Hall, Westwood, Mass, US.
Okay, great. Thank you, John.
Thank you all. Enjoy the summer.
Okay, so that takes care of new business. We're on to old business now. And we have some appointments. So Chris or Tish, who's handling the reappointment process here?
Tish? I can read the information, Tish, if you'd like.
Doesn't matter. Do you want to, Chris, or do you want me to?
If you don't mind, go ahead.
Okay. So we are continuing the process for the appointments and reappointments of boards and committees. We're asking you to appoint to 4 committees tonight. Kara Controne is asking the board to appoint RJ Scher as a member on the Conservation Commission. He did serve on the commission in the past and would like to serve again. So we're asking you to just appoint him to a new term. And then Lena has asked the board to appoint Jim Sullivan as a member on the Council of Aging. He served on the Council of Aging from 2014 to 2019, but they have that change in their bylaw where you cannot serve more than 2 terms. So he had to sit out a little bit and wants to be appointed again. And then Dottie has a few election officials. She would like you to, election officers for her to appoint: Marianne O'Sullivan, Julia Thistlethwaite, and Sarah Thomas. And then we have 2 members on the Ped Bike that Chris and Michael Kraft recently met with. They will be new members to the board. Mr. Tinsley, Michael Tinsley, and Tom McShane. So that's who we're asking you to appoint tonight to those 4 boards.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding these appointments?
No.
Okay. Do we want to do them as one slate? Can we do that?
Sure. I move for the select board to approve or reappoint individuals to the various boards and committee as noted below. For the select board to appoint RJ Scher as a member of the Conservation Commission with a term to expire on June 30th, 2025. That we approve Jim O'Sullivan as a member of the Council on Aging with a term to expire on June 30th, 2025. That we appoint Marianne O'Sullivan, Julia Thistlethwaite, and Sarah Thomas as election officers for a term to expire on June 30th, 2023. And then we appoint Tom McShane and Michael Tinsley as members of the Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Committee with terms to expire on June 30th, 2023.
I second that.
Okay, let's get a roll call vote. Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you for all who are willing to serve, and we will now be moving to the approval of regular minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
may I just make a note before we move on? As you know, there are a number of vacancies on boards still, and I serve as the liaison to the Commission on Disability. And I just wanted to mention that there are a number of vacancies on the Commission on Disability, and the Commission is particularly looking for residents with disabilities or who have family members with disabilities. So wanted folks to keep that in mind and consider that. Thank you.
thank you very much, Marion.
Yeah, as long as we're on it, Rob, why not throw the other ones in? We're still looking for the Cemetery Commission, the Housing Partnership for Fair Housing, Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Committee, the Rec Commission, the Westwood Cultural Council, and the Westwood Environmental Action Committee, all looking for additional members.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. Going to move to, did anyone have any questions regarding the meeting minutes for July 11th?
No.
Okay, I would entertain a
I move
motion.
approval of the July 11th, 2022 Select Board minutes as written.
Second.
Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Let's just do a quick look. Is there are no questions?
Mr.
And-
Chair, if I may just make as a reminder to the board, but also those watching, anyone interested in those vacancies, serving those committees, they go to our website under volunteer. They will see information on how to apply to volunteer for one of those committees.
Thank you, Chris. And seeing no additional questions or hands raised from the public, I'm going to now move us into executive session. The Select Board will be going into executive session to discuss 5 issues. The first, pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, for the evaluation of a proposed payment in lieu of taxes agreement for a lot described as Assessor's Map 33, Lot 060, the discussion of which in open session would have a detrimental effect on the town's negotiating position. The second, pursuant to General Ledger C30A, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to discuss strategy with respect to the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. To disclose any further information would have a detrimental effect on the governing body. The third item, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for union personnel. The fourth, pursuant to General Law 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to union personnel. And General Ledger 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy with respect to non-union personnel. And the fifth being subject to Chapter 30A, Section 22 FG, to comply with any general law for review of executive session minutes, all of which would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governing body if the discussion were held in open session. The board will not be returning to open session. So do we need to close the open session first? Is that the?
You can move to adjourn the open session, but actually you can't. You got to move to go into an executive session, and that'll effectively close your open session. You may want to let the public know that your next meeting will be August 22nd.
Thank you very much.
So I move that we go into executive session for the 5 aforementioned reasons.
I second that.
Okay, Ms. LeBlanc Cummings,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. And before we move into executive session, I just would say, reminder that our next meeting is August 22nd, 6 p.m. via Zoom. Thank you all.